the steep terrain of a remote mountain slope leaves little room for error. When building a permanent facility here, logistics dictate every move. Today, one builder starts transforming this gravel staging area into a massive, weather-sealed, heavy chenillery enclosure. Before any foundation is poured, the footprint must be cleared and leveled. Operating heavy equipment on an uneven grade is dangerous, making a stable, compacted base the critical first step for a load-bearing structure. With materials unloaded, the perimeter is staked out. Establishing true lines now prevents compounding errors later in the build. The structural integrity of the entire building relies on its anchor points. Steel posts are welded directly to heavy base plates, creating a rigid skeleton capable of resisting lateral wind loads. Welding these joints ensures the frame won't shift as tons of concrete are poured around them. To reinforce that concrete, a grid of steel rebar is assembled. Using an automatic tying tool speeds up the repetitive process, wrapping and twisting wire around the intersections in a fraction of a second. This steel skeleton gives the future wall its tensile strength. Securing the new foundation to the existing concrete slab requires drilling and anchoring vertical rebar stakes. These dowels tie the old pour to the new one, preventing the seam from cracking under the weight of the building. With the steel in place, wooden formwork is erected along the perimeter. The heavy wooden panels are braced against the rocky hillside to withstand the immense hydrostatic pressure of wet concrete. Every cubic yard of concrete exerts thousands of pounds of outward force. To give the finished wall a natural look, heavy rubber stamp molds are laid out. These textured mats will press a stacked stone pattern into the wet surface. Precise alignment of the texture mats ensures the faux stone pattern flows seamlessly across the finished wall. A release agent prevents the concrete from sticking. The rubber mold is secured inside the formwork, with spray foam sealing the edges. This prevents the liquid concrete from seeping out and ruining the textured finish. A laser level provides a perfectly horizontal reference line, ensuring the top of the foundation is perfectly flat for the wooden sill plates. With the concrete cured and forms stripped, the textured stone wall is revealed. Sweeping and buffing the slab removes abrasive dust, keeping a safe working surface before the heavy framing begins. Moving upward, the wooden roof framing begins. A long level confirms the rafters sit perfectly plumb. Even a slight pitch deviation here would transfer to the roof decking, causing the metal panels to warp or leak. Crowbars provide the slight leverage needed to align the heavy, stubborn timber. But heavy equipment requires constant maintenance. A seized hydraulic pump on the scissor lift brings vertical work to a halt. High-pressure hydraulic lines must be threaded carefully into the brass manifold block. A cross-threaded fitting here would blow out under pressure, spraying hydraulic fluid and dropping the platform. Once the connections are wrenched tight and wiped clean, the lift is operational again, and the framing can resume. A telehandler turns a grueling manual lift into a precise mechanical operation. Maneuvering long wooden beams through a tight spatial grid requires constant communication between the machine operator and the man on the platform. The machine holds the weight. The builder sets the joint. As the rhythm of the lift is established, the roofline rapidly takes shape. Lifting timber one piece at a time is inefficient, so entire bundles of rafters are rigged and hoisted to the working height. The rigging straps must be perfectly balanced at the center of gravity. An unbalanced load swinging 20 feet in the air is incredibly dangerous. With the bundle suspended just above the framework, the builder can pull individual rafters directly into their designated slots. This drastically reduces fatigue and speeds up the assembly, closing the gaps across the wide span. The structural grid creates a rigid diaphragm, tying the outer walls together. Moving back to steelwork, a heavy cylinder of shielding gas is maneuvered into place. The gas displaces oxygen around the welding arc, preventing porous, weak welds that would compromise the building's structural integrity. Overhead steel beams are fused together. The intense heat of the arc melts the parent metal, while a wire electrode feeds into the joint, creating a permanent structural bond. Steel brackets are then drilled into place and immediately sprayed with a rust-inhibiting coating. Exposed metal oxidizes rapidly in this damp mountain air, and rust destroys load-bearing capacity. As the heavy fog rolls in, the focus shifts to the massive front span. The telehandler reaches out, dropping heavy timber beams directly onto the newly poured stone-faced pillars. These pillars aren't just decorative. They anchor the entire front opening of the shed, carrying the massive roof load down to the foundation. Working from an elevated Caesar lift, the builder fastens the beams to the vertical supports while the machine maintains constant upward pressure. Higher elevations require temporary yellow scaffolding. Navigating the crowded workshop floor with a forklift demands precision, shifting materials exactly where they are needed to avoid bottlenecks. The roof framing is a complex puzzle of steel and timber, with every connection point engineered to handle significant snow loads. The telehandler continues its heavy lifting, suspending long beams over the scaffolding platform. The workers guide the timber into place, securing the main rafters that will eventually support the expansive metal roof. This hybrid frame of welded steel and thick timber offers the best of both materials, the rigid strength of steel and the workability of wood. A clean workspace is a safe workspace. A leaf blower quickly clears the concrete floor of dry leaves and sawdust, removing tripping hazards and prepping the area for interior framing. With the shell taking shape, permanent tool storage is assembled. A heavy-duty blue tool chest receives custom wooden shelving. Moving a fully loaded metal toolbox across the concrete requires a pallet jack. Organizing the tools now saves hours of searching later, transforming the raw structure into a highly functional workspace. exterior walls begin to close out the weather. Thick plywood sheathing is fastened across the metal and wooden studs. These panels do more than block the wind. They act as a shear wall. When fastened securely across multiple framing members, the plywood prevents the building from racking or swaying under heavy lateral forces. The scissor lift proves essential again, allowing the builder to easily raise heavy, awkward panels into position without struggling on a ladder. As the lower sections are covered, the building's massive scale becomes apparent. The open-sided structure is slowly being transformed into a sealed, defensible space. Heavy couple sees something else. Heavy equipment is constantly repositioned across the gravel lot, keeping the workflow moving efficiently around the perimeter.
The hose is back past that.
A plasma cutter cleanly slices through a protruding steel beam. Inside a modified shipping container, a dedicated tire-changing station is put to work. Mounting heavy-duty tires onto steel rims requires a specialized hydraulic machine to force the stiff rubber bead over the lip of the wheel. Once seated, compressed air blasts into the tire, snapping the bead tightly against the rim. Proper inflation ensures the heavy equipment and trailers can safely haul massive loads across the rocky site without a blowout. A flatbed truck arrives carrying another massive load of dimensional lumber. Building at this scale consumes materials at an astonishing rate. Inside the partially enclosed garage, the men strategize the next phase of the build. The stacked stone base provides a rugged, permanent foundation for the wooden framing rising above it. surrounding landscape must be managed alongside the construction. A skid steer equipped with a grapple attachment makes quick work of a large brush pile. The hydraulic jaws bite into the heavy bundle of branches, effortlessly clearing the perimeter. Keeping the exterior zones clear reduces fire hazards and provides unobstructed access for the machinery. The short winter days force the work into the evening. Under bright security lights, the final overhead rafters are locked into position. The structural grid is now fully prepared for roofing. Overnight, the season aggressively shifts. The arrival of snow changes the working conditions entirely. Operating the scissor lift on a slick, freezing surface requires caution, as the builder secures the final high-elevation framing before the heavy metal panels arrive. Pre-hung windows sit in storage, waiting for their openings. From above, the immense scale of the roof framework is visible against the snow-covered ground, leaving the wooden structure exposed to winter moisture for too long risks, warping and rot. Before work can continue inside, the slab must be cleared. A snowblower quickly throws the accumulation out the open bay. Melting snow on a smooth concrete floor creates a treacherous hazard for both machinery and boots. The red skid steer is tasked with loading long steel poles onto a flatbed trailer. Managing heavy, awkward steel in freezing conditions demands careful rigging. Heavy-duty ratchet straps clamp the load down, preventing any shifting on the icy mountain roads. Transporting materials across the property remains a constant challenge in the deep snow. Nearby, an old yellow bulldozer gets a heavy dose of spray lubricant on its exposed engine linkages. Cold temperatures cause metal to shrink and grease to thicken, making preventive lubrication critical for starting heavy diesel equipment in sub-zero weather. The operator cycles the controls, ensuring the mechanisms move freely. When the sky finally clears, the push for the roof begins. The skid steer shuttles pallets of materials to a waiting flatbed truck. Efficiency on site means minimizing how many times a piece of material is touched by human hands. A massive expanse of roof requires a highly orchestrated effort. The red telehandler extends its boom, delivering long, corrugated metal panels directly to the crew on the rafters. The dark metal sheets are designed to shed snow easily and absorb solar heat, helping to melt off winter accumulations. On the ground, workers carefully align and stage the massive panels. Handling sheet metal in windy conditions is extremely dangerous. A sudden gust can turn a 20-foot panel into a heavy sail. Working from both a scissor lift and the roof deck, the crew secures the metal to the wooden purlins. Each fastener features a thick rubber washer that compresses against the painted steel, creating a watertight seal around the screw thread. Missing the wooden purlin or under-tightening a screw guarantees a leak, while over-tightening can crush the washer. The telehandler continuously feeds materials upward, acting as a tireless mechanical elevator. This eliminates the exhausting and hazardous process of manually hauling awkward panels up ladders. From the air, the sheer footprint of the building becomes clear. It is a protective fortress designed to shield valuable machinery from the harsh, wet mountain environment. The overlapping vertical ribs of the metal roofing lock together, creating a continuous, impenetrable barrier against heavy rain, driving wind, and massive snow loads. With the roof sealed, attention turns to the interior ceiling. A rolling yellow scaffold allows the builder to comfortably reach the high rafters without constantly moving a ladder. Long wooden beams are measured, cut to length with a circular saw and hoisted into position. These beams will serve as the structural nailing surface for the ceiling finish. Using an impact driver, heavy screws bite into the wood, locking the span in place. Once the overhead framing is complete, thick plastic vapor barrier sheeting is unrolled. This critical layer prevents warm, moist interior air from reaching the cold metal roof, stopping condensation from raining down inside the structure. The heavy metal housing for the commercial roll-up door must sit perfectly flush against the wooden header. A forklift easily relocates stacks of wooden pallets, clearing space on the workshop floor, while the intricate mounting hardware is sorted and prepped for assembly.
This. Actually. Nice now.
The heavy steel end plate slides over the main shaft, and the locking bolts are ratcheted down tight. A clean sweep removes the wood shavings and dust from the installation. Maintaining a tidy floor isn't just about aesthetics. Sawdust acts like ice on smooth concrete, creating a dangerous slipping hazard near heavy machinery. As night falls, the bright overhead lights turn the massive interior into an efficient workspace. The final wooden trim boards are drilled directly into the wall framing, locking the structure together. Hidden within the chassis of an old ATV, a massive paper wasp nest is discovered. The intricate hexagonal honeycomb is a marvel of natural engineering, built from chewed wood fibers. Left unchecked in summer, this hidden colony posed a serious threat to the operator. Installing a massive commercial roll-up door requires mechanical assistance. The forklift carefully elevates the heavy wrapped steel curtain while the builder on the scaffold guides it toward the mounting brackets. The view from inside highlights the sheer scale of the newly framed entrance. The heavy door assembly is locked into the steel wall brackets. This mechanism holds the massive coiled spring under extreme tension, counterbalancing the weight of the steel curtain. Every mounting bolt is driven hard with a power drill and hand-tightened with a ratchet. If a bracket fails under load, the door could collapse violently. The manual chain hoist is attached, allowing a single person to easily raise and lower hundreds of pounds of steel. Operating smoothly, the door glides in its steel tracks. The forklift continues to feed the heavy sections into the bay, turning raw components into a secure, impenetrable barrier against the freezing weather outside. A final check with a wrench ensures the load-bearing hardware will withstand years of daily cycles.
Jeez.
Moving to the exterior, a heavy-duty boom lift provides the extreme reach needed. Operating at dangerous heights requires a full-body safety harness, anchoring the workers safely inside the steel basket. The hydraulic arm extends to its maximum limit, allowing precise access to the highest peaks of the metal building. Back on the ground, the exterior finish arrives. The forklift drops a heavy pallet of siding panels exactly where they are needed. Ripping away the protective plastic wrap reveals the clean, bright material that will finally skin the raw wooden frame. With the building wrapped, black architectural trim is installed along the edges. This trim seals the vulnerable corners against wind-driven rain and sharpens the visual lines.
All right, so that's... There we go.
Suspended high in the boom lift, the builder applies a heavy coat of sealant and black paint along the wooden eaves. Exposed end grain acts like a sponge, wicking moisture deep into the wood and causing rapid rot. Sealing these high-altitude gaps guarantees the roofline remains weatherproof, locking out both water and nesting insects. The finished exterior stands in stark contrast to the raw wilderness around it. Bright siding panels interlock seamlessly, creating a sleek, highly durable skin that requires zero maintenance. White-framed windows puncture the walls, allowing natural light to flood the cavernous interior, while sealing in the heat. At ground level, the stone-clad foundation visually anchors the massive structure to the earth. This faux stone texture isn't just cosmetic. The thick reinforced concrete behind it protects the base of the walls from snowdrifts, heavy equipment impacts, and ground moisture. Every seam is caulked, every trim piece perfectly aligned. What started as an open, muddy gravel lot is now a fully enclosed, weather-tight fortress. The building commands the space, ready to handle the extreme demands of heavy industrial storage and off-grid mountain survival. inside, the focus shifts from heavy construction to meticulous organization. The last layer of construction dust is swept from the smooth concrete floor. Hand tools and heavy hardware are sorted and loaded into the heavy-duty rolling chests. A large shop is only as efficient as its owner. When every tool has a designated time isn't wasted digging through disorganized buckets. The expansive floor space is finally cleared of construction debris, transforming the raw shell into a highly capable mechanical workspace. With the interior ready, the heavy machinery finally comes in from the cold. The yellow forklift glides smoothly across the expansive concrete slab, taking its permanent place inside. Next, the red skid steer rumbles into its designated bay. For months, these vital machines sat outside, exposed to freezing rain, heavy snow, and brutal morning frost. Storing them inside a dry, sheltered environment dramatically extends the life of their delicate hydraulics, prevents creeping rust, and ensures their diesel engines will start effortlessly on the coldest winter mornings. The tall roll-up doors provide massive overhead clearance, swallowing the bulky equipment with ease and locking them securely away. As dusk falls over the mountain, the true magnitude of the project is finally revealed. Warm light spills from the tall windows, cutting through the freezing evening air and illuminating the snow-covered gravel yard. The massive commercial roll-up doors stand securely shut, completely sealing the cavernous bays and everything inside them from the harsh mountain weather. What began as an overgrown, muddy slope has been fundamentally transformed. The deep, reinforced concrete footings, the heavy welded steel skeleton, and the expansive metal roof now operate as a single unified system. Every structural component was intentionally overbuilt, engineered to withstand the brutal realities of high winds, deep freezes, and heavy snow loads in this remote environment. Building at this scale, miles from standard infrastructure, is a relentless exercise in persistence. It requires moving literal tons of earth, steel, and timber. It means fighting the shifting seasons and solving inevitable mechanical failures on the fly. But the payoff for that grueling labor is permanent. This is no longer just a temporary shelter. It is a highly capable, fortified operational hub. The very heavy equipment that carved this space out of the wilderness now rests safely inside its walls, protected from the elements and ready for the next demanding job. In the end, structure, landscape, and daily routine operate as one system, a place that produces, protects, and sustains itself.